Good morning. Committee on Parole is called to order. Today is December 10th, 2024, Tuesday. It's 8:47 a.m. My name is Cheryl Renatz. I'm serving as chairman of today's parole panel. My colleagues on the panel seated to my left is Mr. Chucky Tillis, and to my right is Mrs. Jerry Ledoux. We are at BOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. With the staff here at headquarters, please introduce yourself for the record.
Francis Abbott.
And our first remote location for revocation consideration today is at Ouachita Parish Prison. With the staff there at Ouachita, please introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning, Deputy Marchand.
Thanks, Deputy Marchand, for accommodating us this morning. We appreciate it. And we have one case for consideration there, and that's Mr. Knight. Is that you, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is COLTIN KNIGHT. My DOC number is 759-964.
All right. And you heard the introductions on this end. So you have a parole revocation questionnaire there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
That's your signature at the bottom of that form?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your answers to those questions, it's determined that you're not eligible for appointed counsel this morning. So are you ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to read the allegations against you. I'll ask you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then you can, we'll have a discussion about it.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole. First is condition number 2, and it states you absconded supervision. You failed to report to your supervising officer since March 5th of this year. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay. Condition number 7, you failed to provide a correct address to be located at before absconding supervision. How do you plead to violating condition number 7?
Not guilty.
And then lastly is condition number 9, you prevented your address from being subject to inspection by failing to provide your current address and absconding from supervision. How do you plead to that violation?
Not guilty.
Okay, and they're all related. It all has to do with your failure to report and not communicating with your parole officer. So tell us what was going on with you. Well, first, let me just say this. I do see in the record that I've been provided and I have reviewed, your parole officer had difficulty with contacting you since November of 2023, not just since March. So tell us about it.
I was in and out of rehab throughout most of 2023. Not only that, I was kicked out of the residence that I was living at, and I was currently homeless in Balkanville. I had just lost my mother in the previous 2 weeks before coming to jail, and I had a son on September the 14th who was in Baton Rouge fighting for his life. He's been in an incubator. He was born 3 months premature. So I had an extenuating circumstance going on, and I was seeking more treatment. I had a job interview on November the 14th that I was supposed to go to the Pilot J on Wells Road for. I was also trying to get back into treatment at the same time. But like I said, the birth of my child and the death of my mother kind of held that up. I tried to reach my parole officer on the first week of July. I can't give you an exact day, but it was through Palmetto Addiction Recovery. And I had to make the call from their office, and I left a voicemail from their number to him. And that was the last any contact would have been July. But I didn't get to talk to him directly. And I had left treatment subsequently, probably 4 or 5 days after.
Yeah, you left treatment June the 5th without complete. Why didn't you complete your treatment?
Me and one of the counselors had kind of rubbed the wrong way due to what he had said about clients. I felt like it kind of directed towards me too. And for our quote, he said, "Fuck that motherfucker. I hope he goes off at the deep end and does it again." And that's not really something I felt like helps anybody, or a place that I felt like would help me in furthering my rehabilitation.
And then in February February this year, I guess, there's a note in your record that says when were you in Pecan Haven? Yeah, that was this year, in February this year.
Yes,
it says you were not working with the program. You transferred to Second Chances. Why weren't you working with the Pecan Haven program?
I was doing the program. I was having difficulties not with staff, but with other clients there. A lot of a lot of arguments and stuff like that. And me being incarcerated for 4 years, I have what they call at treatment centers a jailhouse mentality, where I feel as though if you attack me, I gotta attack you back. Not physically, but if it's with words, then we'll argue back and forth and such matters like that. And that didn't jive with them.
So what's it gonna take to make you be successful? You're
Uh,
second offender, you know, you've got a full term date in August of this year, so you know, tell us what it's gonna take to make you successful. We don't wanna see you be a third
I
offender.
want what I wanted to do was see about an extended rehabilitation program, not something 28 days or nothing like that. Like something like Fresh Start, something at least 6 months to where I actually have to stay there. I can't just leave whenever I want or anything like that. Something that'll really help me. I was looking into a place in California and stuff. I was going to talk to my parole officer before I come to jail and everything once I went to working. Uh, but that's really what I want. Since I've been in here, I've got my anger management certificate, and that's on my email and stuff that my baby mama has. I've also started graphic design classes and a few other education things that are available through the tablets just on my own. That's nothing that gets me any good time or anything. That was just something for me to do. And that was part of my parole requirements was to finish an anger management course. But since I've been incarcerated this time, that's something I went and got was a certificate for that.
How long you been in jail?
Since October the 24th,
What's the longest period of time you've been in jail? Ever?
4 years.
4 years, yeah, you just said that. And I see where are you seeing mental health?
I have been diagnosed bipolar, insomniac, and depressive anxiety.
You take medication for all that?
I'm supposed to, but I haven't started them since I've been incarcerated. I asked my dad to bring my medications up here, but they don't give Seroquel and they don't give my other sleeping medication to keep me asleep. But I need to start my antidepressants. That tends to lead to a lot of the altercations.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna tell you how I feel about it. I agree with you. I think that you need some intensive treatment so that you can go home and be a successful parent. And I agree that it probably needs to be a place where you can't just walk out when you want to, because that seems to be your cycle that you do. And so I have a plan. I'm just going to defer to my colleagues to see if they have any questions.
I have none.
All right. So I think my colleagues know where I'm going with it, Colton. My vote today is going to be in lieu of revocation, send you to an intensive substance abuse treatment program within the Department of Corrections.
Yes, sir.
Complete. And it's, you know, it's not going to be a 28-day program, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So my vote today is in lieu of revocation, send you to a treatment provider within the Department of Corrections.
Yes, ma'am.
I concur.
I think the same would be appropriate, yes. And I would add, after your release, that you do abide with whatever treatment plan is created for you, wherever you land.
Yes, ma'am.
Understand? Colton, we really want you to succeed, but you got to want it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good luck to you. We'll be
Thank you.
sending this to the Department of Corrections so they can get you moved as quickly as possible. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our business in Ouachita. We're going to sign off. It's 8:56. Good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're now at the State Police Barracks on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. It's 9:05 a.m. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman today. My colleagues on the panel this morning, seated to my left is Mr. Chucky Tillis, and to my right is Mrs. Jerry Ledoux. I'd like for the captain, would you please introduce yourself for the record, sir? Y'all are on mute still.
Here now.
Yes, there we go. Yes, sir.
Morning. Captain Washington at State Police Barracks. How are y'all this morning?
Good, great,
Good.
thank you. I like your decor, festive spirit.
I can't take credit for it. The wonderful people in this office did that.
Well, I wanted to thank you too for your hospitality on our recent tour and visit of your facility. It was very helpful and insightful. So thank you for doing that for us. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all for coming.
And we have our first case there this morning is Mr. KANG. Good morning, Mr. KANG.
Good morning, Mr. Nasa.
Would you introduce yourself, sir? Tell us your name, DOC number, please.
My name is Frank Kang. My DOC number is 443596.
All right, yes, sir. And you are represented by counsel, and she's here in the room with us this morning. Introduce yourself, please.
Of course, Adrienne Hutchinson, attorney for Louisiana Parole Project, here on behalf of KANG. I'll speak with the board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me introduce the other folks who have joined us before we get started, Mr. KANG. We have by Zoom, Mr. Andrew Hundley. He wants to speak on your behalf. Justin Jenkins, Sue Kang, joining us by Zoom, and Linda Kang also. Did we get all the sisters? Sue has checked in this morning, but we're unable to reach her, so we'll keep trying. I'm not sure if she's going to join us or not. In opposition, we have a representative from the DA's office in Jefferson Parish, Mr. Meyer. He'll be speaking at the appropriate time. And also representing the victim, we have his brother, Mr. Min Nguyen, who is here in opposition. And those who've indicated they want to speak, we'll call on them at the appropriate time. First, let me just read some identifying information into the record, Mr. Kang. You are classified as a first felony offender, currently serving a 99-year sentence. Your sentence was commuted from life to 99 years in October of 2022 with parole eligibility after having served 25 years. So your parole eligibility date is March the 4th of 2025. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish for a second-degree murder conviction. Mr. Kang, is all that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Would you take a moment, Mr. Kang, and I sat on when you applied for a pardon, I sat on that board and heard your story, but would you, for the benefit of my colleagues this morning, take a moment and tell us why you believe we should vote favorably for your parole today?
Yes, ma'am. To this day, I am very remorseful for the pain and suffering I caused the victim's family. I knew Boom on a personal level, and he did not deserve the way that he died. I take a full accountability for my actions that night. I am just as culpable as the shooter, Dewey. I did retrieve the gun and hand it to Dewey when he asked for it. I just want to apologize to the state of Louisiana, the board members, and especially the victim's family by trying to circumvent the justice system. It was never my intention. I know there's nothing I could say or do to justify my actions that night. I know I made a lot of bad decisions that night. And I know if I would have just made one correct decision, my life would have turned out so differently. But I cannot forgive what happened to Vung. He did not deserve that. And I think about countless of nights of what I could have done different. And I just wish I never did the things that I did. It's so many things that I want to say to him, because we were never enemies. We never had disagreements, we just had different friends, and it hurts me to this day, especially when I took victim awareness and learned about empathy. I know my pain and my family pain does not compare to Vung's family, and whatever I felt is 100 times worse for them. And I just try to do what I could best in my life to bring some type of peace to them, because if I could switch places with him, I would. And throughout my incarceration, I try to have my life to be a continuous journey of seeking forgiveness and try to make sincere efforts to make amends. I know I couldn't keep living like this, and I needed to make conscious efforts to better myself. So I took all the courses available to me, and I learned how to deal with my anger, my stress, how I resorted back to, when I was stressed out. I tried to do some type of substance abuse to get my mind away. I learned how to better cope with my problems. I went through all the education that I needed to. And I was able to attend college, got my degree. I became a social mentor. I mentor other people. I became a certified tutor, and I assist at least over 65 offenders to receive their GRDs. But after each night, each day, I say a prayer for Vung, and I just made a terrible decision, and I could have prevented this. I admit that. I could have not handed the gun over. I could have played stupid. There's so many different options I could have made that night, and I just kept making the wrong decision one after the other. And each day I do feel that pain.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Kang. Let's ask the captain, what can you tell us about Mr. Kang?
Frank's basically the epitome of what this program is designed to do. He came here, prior to being here, he only had 3 disciplinary reports. He's been here over 9 years. Has gotten himself through a lot of difficult situations with our program, has made it up to a very trusted position in our program, and has a solid plan of, if he is paroled, to continue being a productive member of society.
All right, thank you. We appreciate your input. We will hear from the folks that want to speak in support. First, we'd like to hear from Mr. Hunley.
Good morning, Andrew Hunley, appearing on behalf of Louisiana Parole Project to inform the board that Frank Kang is a client of our organizations. If he were to be granted parole, he would come to our residential reentry program once his PED date would arrive, and he would have access to be a long-term client in our program where he would take part in our life skills programming, be assigned a case manager, be given an assessment by our social worker, everything that comes along with being a part of the organization. I should note that I have a personal stake in this because I've known Frank for about 24 years, I believe. We were both very, very young men. I'd like to believe we're still young men, but we were much younger men almost a quarter century ago at David Wade together. Frank is someone who, what you see is what you get, as far as what you see with his record. He's always been someone who strives to be the best and put himself in the best position he could be within the prison. And based on what he's accomplished and where he's gotten himself today, we feel really confident that he's not just someone who would come home and not go back to prison, but actually be an asset in the community. I don't want to totally speak for him, but he has some ambitious goals, as a lot of people do who are coming home. I think what separates him is he's someone that has the capacity to meet those goals that he aspires to have. I should note that as you're aware, Frank's a few months away from his PED. It is Frank's desire if he's granted parole, to be allowed to go to work release for the remaining time on his sentence. He has some skills and an opportunity to go into a work release where he can further those skills that would benefit him for when he comes home with some of the goals he has. Obviously, I'll let the board flesh that out some more, but I just wanted to go ahead and put that out early on, that it is his desire to finish his remaining time on work release if the board grants his parole, and then he would come to Louisiana Parole Project, where he would be a long-term client. He has no desire to return to Jefferson Parish and reside there, but to rebuild his life in a new community. And I'll stand by for any other questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We do see that Ms. Sue Kang has been able to join us. Could we hear from Ms. Sue, please?
Good morning. I'm here with my parents. They're behind me. I don't know if you can see if they're blurred out, but I would like to say a couple of words on behalf of my brother. My name is Sue Kang, and I'm speaking on behalf of my brother, Frank Kang. I've known Frank for 42 years, and I've seen firsthand how much he has changed and grown over time. I feel confident in speaking to the character and the journey Frank has taken since his incarceration. Growing up, Frank was always a quiet, sensitive boy. I remember moments from our childhood, like Halloween, when he would hide behind me, too afraid to go through the haunted houses. He was surrounded by a close-knit family of 4 women, myself, my 2 cousins, Lucy and Sonia, and our sister Linda. We shared a special bond, and this strong family support system has remained unwavering throughout Frank's time in prison. Lucy, Linda, Sonia, and my parents consistently visited him, and I always make sure to visit him when I'm in town. Frank has always been a studious individual, and despite the circumstances of his incarceration, he has remained focused on his education. He was on the verge of graduating as salutatorian of his high school class and was excited to begin his college education at Loyola University, Chicago in the fall of 2000. Unfortunately, he found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, which led to his current situation. During his time in prison, Frank has not only earned a bachelor's degree with an impressive cumulative GPA of 3.98, but he has also dedicated himself to helping others. He taught GED classes to fellow inmates, served as a mentor in the re-entry court program at Angola, and achieved trustee status, eventually earning a transfer to the police state barracks in Zachary. These accomplishments reflect his commitment to personal growth and helping others along the way. Frank has evolved from the quiet, sensitive boy I grew up with into a patient, respectful, and humble man. In his spare time, he enjoys reading and writing and authored a fiction novel titled Awakens. His determination, maturity, and self-discipline speak to the person he has become. He has paid his dues and is ready for a second chance. I believe that Frank's transition back into society would be a smooth and successful process with the ongoing support of his family and friends. He has earned his place among us again, and I wholeheartedly support his opportunity for parole. He is a good man who has shown great potential, and I know he will continue to make positive contributions to his community and his family. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate those remarks. And we have Mr. Justin Jenkins. Could we hear from you, please?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning. I'm Justin Jenkins. I met Frank in January of 2015 when I entered the prison system in Angola. I was in the reentry program under Judge Knight and Saint Tammany, and I was scared when I got there. And so me and Frank, we're close to the same age and we're a lot alike. And he helped me to see that there was really nothing to be scared of. And it's just like living on the outside. And ever since I've been released from Angola in 2017, we stayed in touch. During that time, we became very close, not only as mentor and mentee, but we became friends. And one thing I noticed quickly about Frank is he never let his situation define him as a person. He would get up every day with a smile on his face, determined to be a better version of himself every day. We would work out together. He would teach me that your physical health is just as important as your mental health, and that's all part of, you know, just being a better person. I can count numerous times when Frank has pulled me back from the edge because I was struggling with a drug addiction when I entered Angola. And, you know, many other things that happen while you're incarcerated cause stress that you wouldn't normally have on the outside. So Frank would pull me back from the edge and, you know, talk me down. And I'm very thankful for that because he helped me make it through my program so I could come back home and be a better person. Frank was a GED mentor, and there were so many people in our program who had zero education, and he would spend countless hours tutoring these guys who literally had 5th and 6th grade educations and helped them get their GED. Me and Frank, we've talked about support for when he gets out, and I have a lot of connections with employers, and my job is actually about to start hiring soon. So he has a support system in my community. I live in Washington Parish now and work for International Paper. But if Frank were to be released on parole, he definitely has me as a support system. And I just wanted to say that people like me, we get chances a lot being drug offenders. I'm not a first-time offender. I'm a fourth-time offender. And I've been incarcerated and turned loose. The recidivism rate for lifers is so much lower than it is for guys like me. So I just hope that Frank can get a chance today. Thank you.
All right, Justin, well said. Thank you for taking the time to share that information with us. We appreciate it. Now, we'd like to hear from Ms. Hutchinson. Can you did, thank you so much for the brief that you gave us. It was very thorough and informative. So if you could just tell us whatever it is you'd like us to know today.
Thank you, Board. Frank comes before the committee today with parole eligibility after receiving a unanimous recommendation for clemency by this board. At that hearing, the board agreed that although Frank was not the actual shooter, his culpability obviously remained the same by law as a principle. Frank understood. He lives with that guilt daily, as he's described. He knows his actions caused harm by giving the shooter the gun and for the death of Ms. Gordon. But the board at that time felt that Frank was due some relief. And at just 18 years old at the time of the crime, the board articulated that they understood the considerable amount of pressure Frank was under to take responsibility for the crime, and his lack of maturity at that age. The board commended him for his institutional record, which has only grown since that hearing. Today, it includes still just 3 disciplinary infractions over 24 years, a GED score in the top 20% of test takers in math and science, a horticulture and landscaping diploma from Louisiana Tech, a bachelor's degree in business administration from Thomas Edison State College, with an induction into the International Honor Society for Business. He's been a participant and facilitator of the reentry program. I mostly appreciate Justin for showing up to give a face to that program and what it does for people. Frank was a part of this program before he had parole eligibility. He was still just a lifer. Teaching 100 hours course, which covers victim awareness, personal development, decision-making, problem solving, and more. He was a member of the Asian American Cultural Society at Angola, building unity within that community. As you saw, he was an educational tutor. Those certificates are in Exhibit 6. His speech, and he gets a little wordy, but that's his Toastmasters in him, and he has all those certificates, I think, in Exhibit 9. He's been a consistent member of a substance abuse program, and he's volunteered when time is permitted. He's a part of the trusted few that are housed at Louisiana State Police Barracks, and his job assignment is extremely trusted. His low tiger score encompasses in it that he is educated, has job skills, family support, and a strong reentry plan. Again, Frank is a first-time offender and he's made tremendous strides, and as LPP has stated, we're prepared to assist him long-term. Even though he was not technically a juvenile offender, Frank was still in high school, he was only 18 at the time. So his integration services with us would look the exact same as everyone else, but we would treat it like a juvenile offender just because his age at the time. He's tackled his sobriety and worked on being a really good person, building trust. He has and will continue to apologize for his crime and all the lies that he told afterwards. The board will see that Frank poses no threat to public safety and will truly be an asset, like Andrew said, in the community. His education, his knowledge, and his drive, he could be a success. As always, I'm available for any questions the committee would have. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you see the potential in Frank to be great in our society and provide second chance.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Meyer, we'd like to hear from the DA's office, please.
Good morning, Randall Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. This is kind of a tough case for me. Generally, you know, I look not only do I look at the facts of the case of the crime, I also look and give a lot of weight to what individuals have done while they've been incarcerated, working to better themselves. But it's also a pretty easy case because in this particular instance, Mr. Kang continues to not be totally honest with this board. He stated in his statement that he's never was it his intention to deceive the justice system, and that's completely contrary to the facts. Many years after the verdict, he began stating he lied in his trial testimony that he shot Vaughn in self-defense, and the plan was that he and Mr. Hong made a deal the night of the murder that because Mr. Kang had no record, had a family with money, that he would get a lesser sentence, and that Mr. Hang, the shooter, would get a lighter sentence because he had a criminal record, but he would get a lighter sentence because they're going to deceive the system. So that's what they did. And Mr. Hang pled to manslaughter and was sentenced to 12 years in 2001. So he's now out of jail, and he was the shooter. Now at trial, Mr. Kang testified that he was, it was a self-defense case, and that he shot because it was in self-defense. So now here we are. Mr. Kang continues to state, continues to not be truthful with the board. Never his intention to deceive the justice system. But as a result, what he's doing is just that, and he's looking now to get his life sentence. He got it commuted to years plus parole eligibility. Now he's looking to get out of jail after 24 years. And his initial intent with his deal with Mr. Hang, however you say his name, is going to come to fruition if this board lets him out today. His continued deception of the system must not be rewarded, and we think he should be denied parole today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. For the record, we also have opposition in the record from the Attorney General's office, and the victim's brother also, Mr. Min Ling, is also in opposition. So at this time, we'll go back to Mr. Kang. Mr. Kang will start our interview process with you, and your case has been assigned to me. I just have a couple of questions. Why did you plead guilty?
I plead guilty because
You didn't plead guilty.
I plead guilty because when I guess I got to start from the beginning.
Yes.
I pleaded guilty because in the beginning, when I was in the car and Dewey shot the person, he turned around to me. At first, he was saying, "This is how you handle your business. This is how you handle your business. You see what I do?" He said that nobody's gonna mess with us. Nobody gonna mess with us. And when after the shooting, he turns around and said that, look, I did this for us, now you have to do this for me. He was saying that you know who we are, they know who we are, and if it comes down that your parents got money, you're very educated, they're gonna believe you instead of me. So when everything was done and we got to Dewey's house, I said I was gonna go home, and he was like, "No, you gotta stay here with me. You can't leave." He said, "We gotta get our story straight." I just wanted to leave from there, so he made me stay. And when I stayed, we went to James's house. Then when James came pick us up, Dewey would tell like, "Yeah, if the cops pull over, tell that Frank did it. Frank was the shooter." So as we went to we got pulled over by the police, and we was in the police station. They kept me and Dewey together. Then, and at the station, the police officer says that, we believe you did this in self-defense. And do you know what manslaughter is? And I said, no. He said, carry 0 to 40. He means that 0 means that you won't do no time in jail. So in my mind the whole time, I was so selfish and I was not thinking about nobody else. I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home. And I felt like when he said that they was gonna believe me, and I gave that statement. And the whole time I was in jail, my lawyer told my parents, if you pay me such and such, he's gonna win a not guilty verdict. So that's why I went in there and I said I did it. And as I look back, the main reason why I did it was because I was so selfish. I couldn't think anything but myself. If I said that, if I would have told the truth, I felt like I still would have done time. Like, I was supposed to go to college, but I just wanted to go home. And if I said, okay, I was with them, I felt like I still was gonna go to jail. And the only option was left for me was to get a not guilty verdict to go. It was just a terrible mistake, more than terrible. I know every reason that I did, all my actions were wrong. I should have just told the truth. I should have been mad, but I understand it was my selfishness that I just wanted to go home, and I felt that was just the fastest way, and that is my sole reason why I've said that I've done it.
Okay, and let me just clarify, I did ask you why you pled guilty. What I meant to say is, why did you confess? Because you were found guilty by a jury. And you've explained that to us just now. Thank you. So you mentioned that you have taken substance abuse. Were you a drug user?
I'm okay. I had child ecstasy maybe 3 times, 4 times, but right before I got 2 denial letters to early college acceptance letters, and that what made me reach out to the guys, because they're like, well, I want to go relax. So that's why I made that phone call to James to come see what was going on. And he was like, oh, just come, let's just go to LSU together. See, if I would never made that phone call, I wouldn't even been at that club that night. So I feel like one of the triggering effects was that when I got the denial letters from colleges, that's what I wanted to do, was like do drugs and drink to wash away my worries and my stress.
Okay, so let's move on. It was mentioned earlier that you wanted to try to do a work release or transitional work program, and that you had some very ambitious goals. Would you tell us what your goals are? Tell us about that.
Yes, ma'am. As I planned, I separated it into 3 areas where I think is going to be beneficial to me. The first area is going to deal with community. So when I'm released, if the board grants me parole and I'm released, I'd love to go to the Parole Project and get involved with their organizations and volunteer whatever they need me to be. If that be at youth risk, to talk to them, go to church, cut the lawn for the elderly, feed the poor, cook for the poor. or the homeless. That's one area. The second area is my family. To spend time with them. Like I told you, I was very selfish. I only thought about myself. I neglected my parents that worked so hard. One thing that when I came to prison, I never told my mom and dad I loved them until I got incarcerated. And I just want to expand how much I appreciate them and just spend enough time with them. And finally, for my employment, my big plan is to start a food truck or a restaurant that focuses on Asian American cuisines. And before that, I know that I had to get experience in the workforce, especially in food industries. And if the board grants, I'm in Tulsa, West Baton Rouge, transitional work release, and they are planning locate a job for me in food service industry. And I'm gonna maintain that job when I'm released in March, and I'll be so basic, I'll be fully employed in a job that I want to do when I transition to the Parole project in the food industry.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for, you giving a lot of thought to it.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any other questions of Mr. King. I'll defer to my colleagues. Any questions? Any questions?
I'd like to call for executive session, please.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Tillis for executive session. Could you do the roll call?
Who'll second?
Second by Ms. Ledoux.
Yes. Mrs. Tillis?
Here.
Ms. Ronaldo?
Yes.
Mrs. Ledoux? Yes.
All right, Mr. King, we're going to be in executive session for just a few moments to discuss confidential matters. Stand by, we'll be right back. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Tillis, second by Mrs. Ledoux to return to regular session. Is there any objection? Hearing no, we're back in regular session. It's 9:40 a.m. Mr. King, we are prepared to vote. And I'll vote first since your case was assigned to me. And, I voted for you back in October of 22. I was impressed with you then. I remain impressed with you today. I do appreciate, though, the opposition that has been expressed in the record by the Nguyen family and also by the DA's office. But I maintain my vote. My vote today is going to be to grant your parole after completion of a work release program, as you've indicated you want to do. I would also add special conditions that once you are fully released, that you do report to the parole project for their transition plan, that you do not reside in Jefferson Parish ever, and that you do perform community service work at least 8 hours quarterly. Mr. Close.
My vote is to grant also, and I concur with Mr. Renatza. I hope that you keep up the good work.
Mrs. Medina.
After reading nearly 300 pages of your report and considering all of the elements, my vote today is to grant parole with the same conditions Mr. Renatza imposed upon you.
Good luck, Mr. Kang.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're ready for our next case, and that would be Mr. Donaldson. Good morning.
Morning.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Arnold Donaldson, 176427.
All right, Mr. Donaldson, and let me introduce the panel to you. I'm Cheryl Renatza. This is Mr. Tillis to my left, Mrs. Ledoux to my right. Let me just first read some identifying information into the record, and then we'll get started. Mr. Donaldson, you're classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 70-year sentence. You were sentenced in May of 2003 in Ouachita Parish. For manslaughter, you received 40 years, aggravated burglary, 30 years. Those are running consecutively, so thus the 70-year sentence. And your parole eligibility date was August 1st of 2021. Your good time date is in January of 2060. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are represented by counsel this morning, and she is here with us in the room in Baton Rouge. Let me ask her to introduce herself for the record.
Adrienne Hutchison, attorney for the Louisiana Parole Project, counsel for Mr. Arnold Donaldson, prepared to speak when the board is necessary.
Thank you. Here in support, we also have Mr. Andrew Hundley of the Parole Project, your daughter, Amber Basie, and your son, AJ Donaldson. And we'll call on Mr. Hundley and your daughter at the appropriate time for their remarks. Before we get to that, Mr. Donaldson, we'd like for you to take a moment and tell us why you're in jail and why do you think we should grant you parole today?
I'm not the same person I was back in 2001. Drugs and alcohol ruined my life. I want to apologize to Nicole family. Justin, Dean, Claude, AJ, Taylor, Angela, and Amber. For the hurt that have caused him. Make better changes. I've been drinking that night before. Wanted to go talk to Nicole to see if we could work things out. I opened the door with a key, busted the chain off the door. Saw her in bed with another man, got my gun, and shot her. Went back home. Called my mom, come for the kids. Went back into my bedroom, stabbed myself. I did programs, made better adjustments now. Been going to AA and NA classes. Training for parole, then I'm going to the Parole Project. Keep going to my AA classes there and find me a sponsor. Find me a church to go to. Go to my AA classes the rest of my life to help me get through everything. Took victim awareness. Victim awareness helped me to
All right, Mr. Donaldson, we're gonna, I see you're quite emotional. We're gonna move on and give you a moment to collect yourself while we hear from others. So we'll hear from Captain. Captain, what can you tell us about Mr. Donaldson?
He's been here 2 years, and he kind of made this his home as soon as he got here. Everybody just instantly fell in love with him. If you ever go to his work location, you'll wonder what is that little lightning strike moving around, because he never stops moving. Even if he's done with his work, he goes and helps somebody else do theirs. And if you ask anybody who he is, everybody knows Pops. He's a very hardworking young man. And funny story, the reason that everybody calls him Pops, it's my fault. When we went to interview him, I looked at him and I was like, there's no way. I called my father-in-law Pops, and he and Mr. Donaldson could be twins. They look just alike, and it's stuck ever since.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll go ahead and hear from the folks who want to speak on behalf of Mr. Donaldson. First, Mr. Hundley.
Andrew Hundley, appearing on behalf of Louisiana Parole Project, to inform the board that we have accepted Mr. Donaldson as a client of our program. Much of our staff has been meeting and working with him over the last couple months, including our staff social worker, who's already gone and because of Mr. Donaldson's past substance abuse history, we wanted to go ahead and start with getting an assessment done and making a plan for his long-term sobriety. So first and foremost, if he is granted, he has access to long-term housing with Louisiana Parole Project. So we're prepared for the long-term to be connected to Mr. Donaldson and support him. So that obviously comes with housing, phase 1 programming. But then beyond that, because of his job skills, he has very high marks as a cook, and we believe that he still has some years left where he can be in the workforce. We feel confident that we would be able to connect him to a job with that skill in the Baton Rouge area. Beyond that, we are going to work with him on his long-term substance sobriety. Our staff social worker has already discussed a plan with him, but some of the things that he mentioned, we would work to ensure that he attends AA meetings, finds a sponsor, and has access to whatever recommendations that the staff social worker would provide. In summary, Louisiana Parole Project stands ready to support Mr. Donaldson in the event he's granted parole today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have Amber Donaldson Basie.
Dear Parole Board members, my name is Amber Donaldson Basie, Arnold Donaldson's daughter. I take care of my grandmother, Nancy Donaldson Trim. She is 87 years old and has dementia. I knew Nicole Goodnight since age of 3. Nicole may not have given birth to me, but she became my mother out of love. She was the only mother I ever knew until my daddy tried to take his own life after taking Mama's life. I was only 10 years old when my dad stabbed himself in front of me. Police told me I saved his life by the pressure I put on him as I held him in a hug. So on that day, I felt as though I lost both my parents. What I saw impacted me in many ways. It gave me the capacity and empathy and understanding of human nature. It was a crime of passion. I truly believe Daddy no longer poses a threat. He should not be marked like Cain, but forgiven like all of mankind. I see no indication he would reoffend. Daddy, throughout staying in prison, has helped us as much as possible by sending my family money. He calls as often as he can to check up on everyone. He always calls me on my birthday, my daughter's birthday, and his mother's birthday, which is in 2 days. My dad has proven his loyalty to me as his daughter, as well as my daughters, who would get to know him and learn from him and his mistakes and growth. I have seen my dad change into a great man of God and a kind, loving, and giving grandfather. If I can forgive my dad and give him a second chance, I think you should too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for speaking to us this morning. We appreciate it. Ms. Hutchinson?
Good morning again, board. I'd like to give you some insight into why Mr. Arnold should be granted parole. As you can see, Mr. Arnold can be kind of shy. He's a quiet man. Doesn't talk much unless it's to give you a smile or to extend comfort. But there's a part of Arnold that you see that the silence is silent from the pain and the hurt that he's caused. And not just to Miss Nicole's biological children and her immediate family, but he understands, as Amber has said, that all the children mourned her, and the loss was truly felt throughout. I have with me a copy of Mr. Arnold's actual victim accountability letter. Because he may not be able to get it out, I'd like to just give you a brief of kind of some of the things he said in it, how he expressed his remorse and his regret for his action. He said there isn't a day that goes by that he doesn't think about what they must have gone through and what he's put in. He apologized because all he ever truly wanted to do was be a good father, and that he knew his actions took away their mother, and his ability to be a father to them. The time of the crime was not Arnold's first bout with depression, but it was his worst, because he was increasingly using drugs and alcohol as a way to self-medicate it. It didn't work, and today he knows it would have never worked. And that's just not how you fix your problems. And I won't dive much into the offense. It was manslaughter and a crime of passion exacerbated by his intoxication, but most importantly, it was a tremendous tragedy felt by everybody and still felt today. In order to parole Mr. Arnold, I understand that this committee must be comfortable that he's no longer a threat to society. And the things that matter and play into that begin with his sobriety. He's been sober for almost 20 years now and feels that he has the ability to think through his actions. He regularly attends the Alcoholics Behind Bars program. And as he stated, he's willing to continue to go to meetings for the rest of his life. Like, he understands that. As Andrew stated, Megan, our licensed social worker, has already met with him and put together a plan. Obviously she sets up NAAA for everybody. But she can also refer to Capital Area Human Services as necessary. As this board has done in previous hearings, if you deem it appropriate for him to meet with Megan on a more frequent level, LPP is always willing to accommodate that to determine if there's time to move into a different sobriety plan. So we're fully amenable to any of those conditions that you have. In addition to working on his sobriety, he obtained his GED in 2005. He's a trusted and valued employee who has job skills. Despite his age at 66, he's still willing and able to work, and looks forward to continuing to work. His institutional record has 0 infractions in 23 years, indicating that he'll be a rule follower. And also has a low Tiger score, showing statistically unlikely to reoffend, which again shows true in his records, right? He doesn't cause any problems. He's taken programming and learned to move forward about decision making and bettering himself. He's tailored his reentry plan, and it's different from the one he had 2 years ago. And it's because of that meeting 2 years ago when he saw the pain in both Claude and Dusty and realized that it wouldn't be positive for him to go back to that community. And so LPP has taken Mr. Arnold as a long-term client because he doesn't want his impact in that community if he's granted to further impact anyone. For these reasons and those provided within the brief and the comments of his supporters, we just ask that you give Mr. Arnold a second chance and allow LPP to assist him in his reintegration into society.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Donaldson, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. She'll take the lead on the interview. Please answer her questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Donaldson. I wanted to ask the question, how did you know that Nicole was home with the person she was with?
I didn't know. I just went there just to talk to her. And he would go get in. The chain was on the door, so I busted the chain off. And I went in and just seen her in bed with another man.
Okay, so something doesn't ring true to me in that if you didn't know that he was in there, why did you bust the chain and go in if y'all were just separated and were still, I think they froze.
It looked like maybe he's getting up to it.
He's been getting it for a long time.
Pause our cameras.
All right, we had some technical issues. We're back now. Ms. Ledoux will continue her interview.
Mr. Donaldson, as I was saying, it seems to me that when you went to the home and the door was locked and you had to break in, that you may have known that she was in there with someone else. Did you have the gun with you when you broke into the house?
It was in the truck.
And you were already a first felony offender. I mean, at that time, and you were carrying a weapon, right?
Yep.
And that's a violation. Unless, had you already full-timed out on your first offense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you didn't have your gun rights restored, did you? Okay, what I'm trying to get at, and look, you were pled down from second-degree murder, okay? I'm hearing this being projected as a spontaneous crime of passion, but the records are not indicating that to me, okay? And so I'm troubled that I'm hearing two different stories. one from law enforcement and the way that the crime went down, and then from you today. Can you help me understand why?
I've been drinking and just wanted to go talk. I took my key. I unlocked the door, but the chain was on. And I just busted the door and went in.
Was his vehicle outside?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I don't know. Mine was. I don't know. I didn't know if what kind of vehicle he even drove.
I think your first answer was correct. Your spontaneous answer was correct. It was outside. You kind of had an idea maybe that if she had.
No, I didn't know. I didn't really know she was even seen anybody.
That concerns me. We do have a letter of opposition from her daughter. And, you know, you were given, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not even looking at the burglary part of the sentence because that was an enhanced sentence based on the fact that you pled down to manslaughter and they wanted to give you enough time. So I'm looking at manslaughter has a 40-year max and you've done 23. How long have you been in?
23 and a half.
23 and a half years.
I've never had a write-up since I've been in prison. I've always done what I could to.
Oh, yes. I mean, you have no write-ups and you have earned 372 days of good time. And so I'm weighing all of this out. I'd like to go ahead and defer to the other members. Any questions, Mr. Tim?
No, I have no questions.
I would pass on my,
Mr. Donaldson, I have just a questions. I think what we're trying to get at is, you know, yes, you have a good record, and I was on your panel last time when you had a parole hearing, and I acknowledged that you had a good record, you've done well. I encourage you to take some more programs if you could. And it looks like since your last hearing, have you taken any programs since your last hearing?
Yes, ma'am. I've been taking AA and NA down here to police back.
There was something in your record, it says Maxwell Leadership Class. What is that?
That was a class that we took to
one of our former employees came back. He's part of the Maxwell Institute leadership program, and he put on a class for some of the offenders, and Mr. Donaldson was in that class. It's I think like a 10-week class where they learn biblical leadership principles, and it was held here at the State Police Barracks.
Okay, well, good. Thank you for that, Captain. I think what Mrs. Ledoux was trying to get at, Mr. Donaldson, and we did hear from your attorney on your victim accountability letter, is a little more, you acknowledge what you did, that you shot your wife, but it seems as though from the record that you went in there specifically with that intent because you broke the chain. You had a key, but you broke the chain, so the door was locked. You weren't welcome there. You broke the chain, and then when you found what you found, you went back to your car to get your guns.
Yes,
So that meant and you meant to harm her. So it was not as spontaneous as what you were trying to lead us to believe. Can you just speak to that, however you can?
I didn't go there to harm her. I went there to just talk to see if we could work things and get back together because of the kids. But after I see her in bed and I hit a passion, I just lost it.
Okay. Right. Going to executive.
We have a motion by Ms. Ledoux for
I second.
executive session, a second by Mr. Tillis. Can you call the roll?
Renata,
Yes.
Ledoux,
Yes.
Tillis.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Donaldson, will be in executive session for a few moments to discuss confidential matters. We'll be right back. We have a motion by Mrs. Ledoux, a second by Mr. Tillis to return to regular session. I do concur, so it's a unanimous vote. So we're back in regular session. It's 10:28. And before we proceed, I think Mr. Donaldson's attorney would like to clarify some information.
Right, I just wanted to, and thank you for, I just wanted to discuss the plea agreement for the manslaughter. And so in doing that, manslaughter requires that obviously that the offender committed in a sudden passion or heat of blood immediately caused by provocation sufficient to deprive the average person of his self-control and a cool reflection. And so I think while he didn't enter the home with a weapon, the run from the home to the truck would not have been I believe what the state or the court would have agreed would have been enough of a cool reflection period. And so they agreed that there was enough evidence to support manslaughter in this, likely because his blood had not cooled. And also just the aggravated burglary is because the unauthorized entering of the home with the weapon.
Yeah.
Okay, so just.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Donaldson, I think the panel is prepared to vote. Mrs. Ledoux will be voting first.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Donaldson, I'm struggling a little bit, as you can tell. Let me tell you, just for the record, the number one issue that I look at is public safety, and I do not see that you pose a threat to public safety. Your remorse is very sincere. Although we have an old letter of victim opposition, there's no victim who attended today or sent anything current. And you have checked all the boxes for me that I need to see. I'm going to vote to grant today, but I'm going to make sure that you have at least a 12-month period that you remain at the Parole project and follow all of their recommendations. And you are not to live in the area where the crime occurred.
Okay. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am. Thank you.
Ms. Ledoux.
And Mr. Donaldson, I also concur. You did what I asked you to do, at least since your last parole hearing. So my vote today is to grant your parole to the parole project plan. And you have to follow whatever treatment program that social worker has prescribed for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Parole.
Yeah. All
Thank
right,
y'all.
that concludes our business. It's 10:31. Have a good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we're at, Riverbend. Assist State Police.
Yeah. Some tough question. Right, Committee on Parole, we are reconvening at 10:43 a.m. on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, and we are at the Riverbend Detention Center. Good morning, Mr. Ware.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. And is that the staff member behind you? We'd like him to introduce himself just for the record. Is he in the room with you? Yeah. Oh, they're outside the room. Sir, could you just tell us your name for the record?
My name is Lieutenant Jonathan.
All right, Lieutenant. Thanks for accommodating us this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
No problem, ma'am.
Mr. Ware, would you tell us your name and DOC number, please?
Bailey Michael Ware, 731730.
All right, Mr. Ware, and you should have a parole revocation questionnaire there with you.
No, ma'am, I don't, and is it paper? I don't have no paperwork.
Okay, we're gonna put it up on the screen. You see that on your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature dated October of this year at
Yes,
the
ma'am.
bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's the parole revocation questionnaire I was referring to. So based on the information contained in that document, you're not eligible for appointed counsel this morning. So you're ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
So let me first acknowledge the folks who have joined us by Zoom. Before we get started, your Courtney Delaney, the mother of your children, is here. Your mother, Angela Perry, and she is with Kelly Taylor.
Yes, ma'am.
And all of these people want to speak on your behalf. We'll call on them at the appropriate time. First, just let me read some identifying information into the record. Well, excuse me, I'm going to read the allegations against you, after which you'll enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. And then we'll have a discussion about the violations or the allegations, okay? Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Ware, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole. First is condition number 4, and it reads, on February 26, 2024, you engaged in new criminal conduct resulting in your arrest at the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office and being charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm in the presence of a controlled dangerous substance, possession of Schedule 2, possession of Schedule 4, possession of drug paraphernalia. You pled guilty to the misdemeanor charge of illegal carrying of weapons on August 30th, 2024, and you were sentenced to 6 months in the parish jail. So how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Guilty.
Right. Condition number 5, it reads, you were found to be in possession of a dangerous weapon as evidenced by your arrest on February 16, 2024, and your subsequent guilty plea. How do you plead to violating condition number 5?
Not guilty on that one.
No, and then lastly is condition number 10. You have failed to provide verification of making any payments towards your supervision fees. You have an arrearage of $1,008. How do you plead to violating condition number 10?
Guilty.
All right. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. Would you answer his questions?
Anybody speak?
Well, first we'll hear from those who want to speak on your behalf. Thank you, Mr. Tillis. First, could we hear from your mother, Miss Perry? Ms. Angela Perry. Are they still with us?
Yeah.
Yes, she's been here for nothing.
I think so.
She's right here.
She's mute.
Ms. Perry, can you hear us?
We can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us?
Just go to the next.
All right, how about Courtney Delaney? Could we hear from Courtney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Courtney, what would you tell us your relationship to Mr. Ware and what would you like us to know?
I've been in his life for probably a decade. He's an amazing dad. He is a provider. He'll put his family before anything. And I know with speaking on the phone with him the last couple months, he really is tired of all the revolving door, and he really wants to do well next time he gets out. He wants to do right. And when I was with him, he had a steady job for a long time, and that's what he wants to do again. He's got a big heart. He's a good person. Puts everybody above himself, usually. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate your taking the time to speak with us. Could we speak to Kelly Taylor now?
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Do you have Miss Perry with you as well?
I do not have her. She had to go home, so she is at her home and I'm at work.
Okay, so would you tell us your relationship with Mr. Ware and what is it you would like us to know?
So I've been Bailey's counselor off and on for the previous 2.5 years. So one thing that I think is important to mention is Bailey has suffered some significant trauma in his past. And I think one thing is that he would benefit from is not necessarily, continuing to remain in the prison system, but going to inpatient, long-term counseling where he can get some services for substance use disorder, because that's really what drives the impulsiveness that he has and some of the poor decision making and the negative consequences that come from, the things that he does. And I've gotten to know Bailey quite well over the last 2.5 years, and he's a good person. He has a good heart and he wants to do right and he wants to make good decisions. He just doesn't know sometimes how to get there.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time out of your workday to tell us your interest in Mr. Ware. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, Mr. Ware, would you answer Mr. Tillis?
Good morning, Mr. Ware. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. Tell me about yourself. You feel like you have a drug problem?
Yes, sir. I suffer from addiction. I would say it started when I was young, but I feel like I had it under control whenever I used to attend the methadone clinic where Kelly is located at. And I feel like I had it under control. I was working when I was out there, I just kind of lost my sight. Whenever I come home, I just come home from doing 3 years in a couple months. And when I come home, it was like the weight of the world was put on my shoulders, I had to, as soon as I got home, I started paying rent, paying on a car note, taking care of somebody else's kid, so I just feel like the world was on my shoulder and I kind of lost sight of that, and I'm really not a messed up individual, I just make bad decisions.
Were you using drugs right after you got out? I mean, with the weight of the world on you?
Not necessarily right after I got out, but it fell into that, yes, sir.
Did you seek counseling or try to seek some?
I was attending the methadone clinic, the BHB where Miss Kelly is located at. I was going there and she was counseling me there. And then I happened to come to jail.
What are your plans if you get out?
My plans are to get out and I'm gonna immediately go to counseling, but I've been talking with somebody out there and I'm trying to go offshore whenever I go home. They say I have to pass my helicopter safety class and I'll be able to go offshore. So that's my plans. He said I can go to work 2 weeks out and be in 1 week. So that's just my plan, is just keep busy, you know, because right now I have to start from rock bottom. And me being incarcerated, I lost my apartment, I lost my car, I lost basically everything. So like, I really have to start from rock bottom, you know, and that's just all I can do. My plan really is the first day home is just go straight to work, go put in applications as many as I can until I happen to make it offshore.
How long have you been incarcerated?
10 months.
10 months, and you were sentenced 6 months?
Yes, sir.
I see. Okay, I have no more questions.
So how do you feel about what Miss Taylor said about the need for inpatient long-term treatment?
Yes, sir. I like everything that she said.
So you didn't mention that. You mentioned the first thing you want to do is get out and go to work.
I can put myself into rehab, but I know my mom's out there. I know like there's a lot going on in the world, you know, like there's a lot of stress out there with me coming to jail. Everybody's just hit rock bottom, and I know a lot of people depend on me, you know, so I really got to go to work, but I can go put myself in rehab. I feel like me being in jail now, I've got my mental state back to where I can move on from where I was in my addiction process. And if I fall off, then I could go to rehab or attend a methadone clinic again. But I could go to a rehab and then go to sober living if that's what's necessary.
Haley, I have a little worries about you. Why did you plead not guilty to violation of number 5 that had to do with the firearm in February of 24?
Because, man, that gun is really not mine. I picked up somebody. Okay, I gave a lady a ride, and she brought all her belongings in the car, and her bags was in the back seat. And when we got pulled over, she went into her bag and took a bunch of pills out of her bag and started eating them. So she started like overdosing on the scene, and she wasn't able to communicate and wasn't able to tell the police what was hers and what was not. And they took her to the hospital, and then we got charged with the same charge. That gun's really not my gun.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. You have ready to vote?
Yes. I think you need long-term assistance, and I'm going to you served more than 6 months of your time. My vote today is going to be to grant with conditions.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mrs. Levine.
Bailey, I don't think that I want to see you fail again. So the only way that I can ensure that you get the treatment, because I could order it on the street, but I don't have the confidence in that. I would like to, in lieu of your revocation, send you to a long-term DOC program, substance abuse program.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Ware, I do. We all are in agreement that you need treatment. And I think that you need the inpatient treatment. You got to get the tools in your toolbox to be able to deal with your addiction that you're going to deal with for the rest of your life. But we got to get your priorities right. I do agree with my vote today is in lieu of revocation, send you to a long-term DOC inpatient treatment program. And then after you're released from that, you're not going to be revoked. So once you complete that program successfully, you'll have an added special condition that you have to follow up with Ms. Taylor and whatever aftercare program that substance abuse program suggests. You understand?
Yes, ma'am. So would I would have to stay here until y'all find a rehabilitation center for me to go to?
Yeah, we're gonna do that pretty quickly. We're gonna move on that pretty quickly, and you'll be moved to that program.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
All right. Good luck to you. We want you to be successful.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
All right, that concludes our business at Riverbend. We're gonna sign off. It's 10:56. Good luck, Bailey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. He was dumped in a car, so.
All right, we are now reconvening in West Baton Rouge. It's 11:03 on December 10th, 2024. And you are Mr. Perkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anybody in the room with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Warden Juge at West Baton Rouge.
Hey, Warden Juge, thank you so much for accommodating us today. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're here, you're familiar with the process, Mr. Perkins, because you've recently appeared before a parole panel. So based on your answers to the parole revocation questionnaire at your initial hearing, you're not eligible for appointed counsel, so you're ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're here because you're accused of violating condition number 13, and that was at your last hearing, the board ordered in lieu of revocation that you were to complete a long-term substance abuse program. So at your revocation hearing, November 14th, you were ordered to complete the long-term substance abuse program. You were released in error, however, and you did turn yourself back into the jail. When you turned yourself back in, the jail discovered marijuana during a search. It was on your person.
No, ma'am.
You were going to be charged with the marijuana and introduction of contraband into a correctional facility. As such, you're no longer eligible for treatment due to those pending charges. So how do you plead to violating condition number 13?
When I was searched, it wasn't nothing on me. They found that in the dorm, so I'm gonna plead not guilty to it, but it wasn't on me.
All right. So you're pleading not guilty to violation of condition number 13.
Yes, ma'am. I ain't had nothing.
Well, during the information we have is that they discovered the marijuana on your person, or should I say in your person.
No, ma'am.
Or Juge, can you provide any information there?
I do know when they entered the shower from the report I seen that he had a lighter and a cigarette in his hand. There was on the playback of the camera, there was a chip bag on the cooler that came from the shower and he placed the chip bag on the cooler, and that's where the marijuana was found after leaving the bathroom.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We appreciate it. Let's see. The information, let me read the information we have. Jail staff discovered marijuana in his rectum during a search.
That ain't true. We got the write-up right here. They had a chip bag in the shower. I was in the shower. I moved the chip bag out the shower, from on top of the shower, and sat it by the cooler. They came in an hour later to do a search of the cell and found the chip bag by the cooler.
And Warden Juice says the marijuana was found on the cooler?
Marijuana was found in the chip bag that he brought out of the shower and placed on the cooler.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Was it yours?
Mr. Tillis, you have a question?
Was it yours?
Was it mine?
Yes.
Sir, I mean, it looked suspicious when me in the shower, and they got a chip bag in the in the shower.
It wasn't yours.
Oh, sir.
All right. Any questions? Anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Perkins?
No, ma'am.
All right. I think we're ready to vote, Mrs. Oh, I'm sorry. Your mom is here, Miss Perkins. Colette, we'd like to hear from you, ma'am. I apologize.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, this is Miss Perkins. I am his mother. I am aware of what he told me. I know that he has been going through some issues. Myself is going through issues right now. I am his mother. I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. I am right now at the treatment. Also, he just lost his child's mother. with overdose of fentanyl. He was and is my help at the house. Again, I wasn't there. This is the story that he also told me, that he did not have anything on him when he went into the shower, that he did when he came out, he did put it on the cooler. And this is all that I know. But I am asking for some type of leniency or whatever you can, a drug treatment or whatever possible. I am stage 3 breast cancer. I am home alone. I know things happen. Again, as a mother, I'm asking for leniency or some type of help for my child. Also, last time he went, they said he didn't have support. I am his support. I am his support. Again, I was going through treatment on his last day that he appealed before you guys. So I'm asking for mercy for my child, some type of rehabilitation or whatever we need to do, or whatever steps we need to take. I'm not asking for him to be gone years away for myself and a daughter that just lost her mother on an overdose of fentanyl.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, Ms. Perkins, for taking the time to speak with us this morning. I'm glad we were able to hear from you. So, Mr. Warden Juge, has charges been lodged against him? To your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So you've been, Mr. Perkins, you've been rejected. The board tried to give you an opportunity for treatment as your mother has requested, but those charges have, that opportunity is no longer available since you have these charges pending.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think we're prepared to vote. Mrs. Ledoux?
Vote is to revoke based on failure to comply.
Mr. Tillis?
I concur.
All right, and I do agree, Mr. Perkins. It's unfortunate, but today my vote is to revoke your parole because of failure to comply with the special condition ordered by the board. So today, sorry, your parole is being revoked.
Okay.
Good luck. Thank you, Warden Juge.
Thank you.
That concludes our business at 11:11.